There's a peculiar love story from Japan that, despite receiving glowing reviews, has left many couples choosing to break up after watching it together. The reason? It's just too real. The protagonist, Yamane, is a soon-to-graduate student at a Tokyo university. He loves to draw and enjoys his solitude. One night, he's invited by a classmate to a party, but it's clear that the noisy crowd isn't his scene. When the party ends, he realizes the last train home is about to leave. Rushing to the station, he still misses it. And so, fate takes over. At the station, Yamane meets Hachiya, who also missed the last train. Along with a few others, they decide to pass the time at a nearby bar that's open all night. As luck would have it, Yamane spots his favorite animation director, Mamoru Oshii, at the bar. Even more coincidentally, Hachiya turns out to be a huge fan of Oshii as well. Their conversation begins with their shared admiration and soon flows naturally. At some point, Yamane notices that Hachiya is wearing the same smiley face shoes as him. They introduce themselves formally and, in a quirky twist, exchange their personal journals, where they both record their daily lives. Flipping through each other's pages, they are left speechless by the similarities. It's uncanny how much they have in common. They both love the same poets, bookmark books with old movie tickets, and visit the most unusual art exhibitions. These coincidences make it feel like they've known each other for years. Despite meeting for the first time, the conversation flows endlessly, with so many stories they can't wait to share. Like every romance, there's a rainy day scene. Yamane and Hachiya run through the rain back to Yamane's apartment. Inside, Hachiya marvels at his bookshelf, pulling out a comic drawn by Yamane himself. She's impressed. Outside, the rain continues to fall, the droplets illuminated by the dim yellow streetlights. Yamane, shy but caring, uses a blow dryer to dry Hachiya's hair while she's lost in his drawings. As his gentle actions warm her heart, she suddenly feels something bloom inside her love. The next morning, Yamane sees Hachiya off on a bus, and they promise to visit a mummy exhibit at the museum together. Back in her room, Hachiya lies in bed, wishing she could hold onto the magical feeling of the previous night just a little longer. Being understood, being seen, that's what she craves. Now, imagine if you met someone who's 100% in sync with you. Same interests, same values, even the same little habits. What would you do? Soon, they meet again for the mummy exhibit. Afterward, they sit in a cafe, sipping drinks and talking late into the night. It feels like they can never run out of things to say. Their meetings become more frequent. There's a saying, if two people who are this compatible share 3 meals together without confessing their feelings, they'll eventually just become friends. Staring at a photo of Yamane on her phone, Hachiya resolves to confess her feelings the next time they meet. On the other side, Yamane is doing the exact same thing, looking at a picture of Hachiya and deciding to tell her how he feels. Liking someone is normal, but mutual love, it's a gift from the universe. Both of them, nervous yet determined, are ready to make their feelings known the next time they meet. They count down the minutes, hoping to confess before the last train arrives. But despite their best efforts, the shy pair can't seem to find the right moment. As they're about to leave, a waiter mistakenly brings a chocolate sundae to their table. After the waiter apologizes and takes the dessert away, Yamane decides to keep it and pushes the chocolate, a symbol of love between them. At that moment, both of them instinctively reach for their phones.
僕と付き合ってくれませんか?
はい、ぜひ。
The start of their relationship is sweet and awkward, as is often the case with people who've just crossed the line from friendship to something more. At a crosswalk, they say their goodbyes. The blinding red light halts Yamane in his tracks. Without a word, Hachiya steps beside him, and Yamane silently reaches out, holding her hand tightly. They look at each other and slowly embrace, a sweetness almost too much to bear. In the following week, Yamane and Hachiya visited an art museum together, ate fried oysters, and even had their portraits drawn by a friend. One windy evening marked the start of a deep, 3-day conversation where they completely opened up to each other, giving themselves fully to the relationship. Now, it felt like every moment, every second, they couldn't stand to be apart.
そんなメイさんが今恋をしている。この恋を一夜のパーティーにするつもりはない。
Though Hachiya knew that the odds of love at first sight lasting were slim, she wholeheartedly believed that their love would survive. Yamane introduced Hachiya to his friends, including one couple that left a deep impression on him. They had matching tattoos. Hachiya commented that getting matching tattoos must require the kind of commitment where breaking up is not an option. As they exchanged smiles on the train, the more perfect the atmosphere between them, the faster time seemed to slip away. Soon, they reached their first summer together as a couple, both about to graduate from university. Hachiya, under pressure from her parents, spent sleepless nights job hunting. Meanwhile, Yamane focused on his art, honing his manga skills, with plans to make a living doing what he loved. But the intense job interviews and constant pressure overwhelmed Hachiya, leading her to doubt herself deeply. For the first time, she broke down crying in Yamane's arms. Yamane, heartbroken to see her like this, comforted her by saying it was okay not to get a job right away, that she didn't have to do anything she didn't want to. But Hachiya's parents were relentless, constantly nagging her at home. They believed that not finding a job after graduation was practically antisocial.
一緒に暮らそうよ。
Hearing this, Yamane suddenly made a decision. They rented a bigger place together by the river, even though it was a 30-minute walk from the nearest station. But the thought of waking up next to each other every day made that distance seem like nothing. They set up wooden floors on the balcony, installed warm lighting in the bedroom, and made the place cozy and perfect for their new life living together. They even found a small bakery nearby run by an elderly couple, and it became one of their favorite spots. Not long after, Yamane started doing illustrations for a website from home, earning a decent wage of 1,000 yen per drawing. Hachiya, meanwhile, found a part-time job at an ice cream shop. Every evening, Yamane would arrive at the station early to meet her, and their 30-minute walk home became their most cherished time together. On New Year's Eve, they exchanged gifts, only to discover they had bought each other the exact same pair of headphones. In their free time, they would cuddle up in bed and read their favorite manga. Whenever they reached a sad part, they couldn't help but shed tears together. That New Year's Eve, Hachiya didn't go home to her parents. Instead, she stayed with Yamane, and they cleaned their little apartment, shared a meal of soba noodles, visited a nearby shrine to pray for good fortune, and even adopted a stray cat. Though their lives were simple, they both knew that being together was all they needed to be happy. Before they knew it, summer came around again. Yamane's illustration pay was suddenly reduced, but he barely had time to worry because Hachiya's parents had decided to visit their apartment. At dinner, Hachiya's mother said, "You don't have to work for a big company, but at least get a respectable job. Life is about responsibility." A few days later, Yamane's father also visited from the countryside. He urged Yamane to return home, saying that staying in the city was a waste of time. Yamane showed his father his manga and firmly stated, "I have something I want to do." Seeing his son's stubbornness, his father decided to cut off financial support, hoping to pressure Yamane into coming back home. With the reduced illustration pay and the loss of his father's support, their situation became more dire. With no other choice, Yamane decided to step out of his comfort zone and look for a job. Hachiya was shocked when she heard the news. She assumed it was because her parents had pressured Yamane, and she felt immensely guilty. Yamane quickly reassured her, explaining that it wasn't her parents, it was simply something he felt he needed to do. Yamane shaved off his long hair, put on a suit, and set out toward his new goal. Meanwhile, the ice cream shop where Hachiya worked shut down, so she started studying hard at home for her accounting certification. That summer marked a period of quiet transformation for both of them. Yamane diligently searched for job interviews, while Hachiya buried herself in exam prep. Late at night, they would sigh in unison, saying, "Being a normal person is just too hard." Their efforts paid off. Hachiya passed her certification and landed a job at a respectable local company by the end of the year. In early spring, Yamane also secured a sales position, finally allowing them both to catch their breath. They leaned against the balcony together, opening up their hearts to each other. Yamane smiled at Hachiya and said, "In the 2 years since we met, every day has been full of happiness. I'm sure this will continue forever." At that moment, they were full of hope for the future, not knowing that life's harshness can easily trample a person's dreams. After starting his new job, Yamane was placed in the busiest sales department, working long hours and barely spending time at home. Many of the plans he and Hachiya had made together were disrupted. His time with her dwindled, and their shared moments became rare. One day, Hachiya went alone to a dinner with friends, where she learned that the couple with matching tattoos had broken up. The man's work struggles had caused him to develop violent tendencies. Hachiya was shocked, weren't they once so in love? Yamane's hard work didn't go unnoticed, and the company relied on him more and more, making him even busier. The time he spent with Hachiya shrank even further. Hachiya gazed at the dust-covered sketchbook in the corner, lost in thought. It was once part of Yamane's dream. She was beginning to feel afraid of how much he had changed. She excitedly suggested going to see a play together over the weekend, but Yamane's business trip clashed with the plan. Rejection after rejection left Hachiya feeling hurt. She began to wonder if work was now Yamane's whole life.
そういうこと言うの嫌に決まってるじゃん。
分かってる。
ただキヌちゃんと生活習慣が合わないってだけで。
After 3 years of being together, they had their first fight over work. Before Yamane left for his trip, Hachiya handed him a book from his favorite author, one he used to love. The camera shifts to the shoes by the door, once matching smiley-face sneakers, now replaced by different leather shoes. That weekend, Hachiya went to the play alone, while the book she gave Yamane was carelessly tossed into his car's trunk. The path they once walked together was now splitting, and Yamane seemed to be rushing ahead, leaving Hachiya behind. His interests had shifted, no longer the films and books he once loved, but now focused on self-help titles like The Formula for Success. The gap between them grew wider. They spoke less and less, even though, just 2 years ago, they were the couple everyone envied as soulmates. Small, everyday things started to chip away at their once impenetrable bond. The bakery run by the elderly couple, such a special place in their memories, closed its doors. When Hachiya told Yamane, his dismissive response only deepened her disappointment. It was clear that he missed the point entirely. What she really wanted to say was that he shouldn't let work make him forget the beauty and memories that life had to offer. But by then, Yamane was so obsessed with his job that he was hardly ever home. Had he forgotten the dreams he once held dear? Through a friend's recommendation, Hachiya quit her current job and joined a planning company that ran a manga-themed escape room. Although the pay was lower, she finally got to do something she truly enjoyed. When Yamane heard the news, he was furious. He mocked Hachiya, saying it wasn't real work. Real work, he insisted, wasn't about fun, it was about responsibility. They argued again, with Hachiya accusing Yamane of becoming numb under the pressure of his job. She wished Yamane would slow down, take a break, but he felt that he simply couldn't. This is for our life together, he said. I can't stop now.
好きで一緒にいるのに、なんでお金ばっかりになるんだろうって。
ずっと一緒にいたいからじゃん。そのためにやりたくないことも。
私はやりたくないことしたくない。ちゃんと楽しく生きたいよ。
じゃあ結婚しようよ。結婚しよう。俺頑張って稼ぐからさ、家にいなよ。働かなくても別に家事もしなくても。
それってプロポーズ。
Hachiya had once imagined countless times what it would be like if Yamane proposed, but it was nothing like this. How had their relationship come to this, when all they ever wanted was the best for each other? What ultimately destroyed their love was the funeral of a friend. This friend, once Yamane's closest brother and mentor, drowned in his own fish tank after falling asleep drunk in the bath. His death deeply unsettled Yamane. He wanted to spend the night talking to Hachiya about all the memories they shared with his friend, but when he got home, Hachiya had already gone to bed. It wasn't that she didn't want to support him, it was just that this friend was the same man who had once shown violent tendencies toward his partner, and Hachiya couldn't bring herself to mourn him the same way Yamane did. So Yamane spent the night crying alone by the river. The next morning, Hachiya planned to have a heartfelt talk with Yamane, but it was clear that something had changed. He didn't seem to care anymore. Silently, they both knew that the thought of breaking up had already taken root in their hearts. They understood that they could never go back to the way things were. Life had pushed them, two people who were once walking side by side, onto different paths. The following spring, a mutual friend's wedding approached. Yamane and Hachiya attended together. They smiled and laughed throughout the ceremony, but both had already made up their minds. Once the wedding was over, they would officially break up. It was hard to imagine that the two people who were once perfectly in sync now barely spoke. Their love had faded like a passing cloud. But why choose this day to end things? Because they both wanted to say goodbye with a smile. That evening, they returned to the same restaurant where they had first talked late into the night 4 years ago. While there, a friend shared some wedding photos in their group chat, and as they scrolled through, they stumbled upon old pictures of themselves. In those photos, they looked carefree, full of hope, with youthful smiles on their faces. Hachiya sighed. We were so happy back then. They both set their phones down and looked at each other, face to face. The words to break up hovered on their lips but refused to come out. In the end, Hachiya mustered the courage to speak first. She thanked Yamane for his care over the past 4 years, saying she would cherish the happy memories. But when the topic of moving out and living separately came up, Yamane couldn't hold back his tears. He still wanted to try, to keep going, but Hachiya shook her head. They couldn't go back to the way things were. Their love, once as beautiful as a bouquet of flowers, had reached the point where it was wilting. Yamane believed that getting married would solve everything, that even if they lost the spark of romance, they could just close their eyes to the problems and keep moving forward. He told Hachiya, "Isn't that how all married couples are? No one stays madly in love forever." As Hachiya looked at the man she once dreamed of spending her life with, she realized the boy she had fallen in love with was gone. At a nearby table, two young people sat down the very spot where Yamane and Hachiya had met for the first time. The young couple began talking about their favorite music, manga, and movies, shyly exchanging notebooks where they recorded their daily lives. They even wore matching smiley face shoes, just like Yamane and Hachiya had years ago. It was like watching their younger selves. Memories flooded back to them, scene by scene. They had been through so much together, but in the end, they couldn't make it past the final hurdle. At the crosswalk where they had first held hands and embraced, they tearfully let go of each other. Perhaps, as they said, regret is part of life, and love is something best left to memory. A year later, Yamane sat in a restaurant with his new girlfriend, explaining how the sound of a song is different depending on which speaker it comes from. Just as he stood up to tell a nearby couple, he noticed someone else standing up at the same time. It was Hachiya. Their eyes met, and they quickly sat back down. By now, they both had new partners. As they left, they gave each other a quiet, knowing wave of final farewell. How many people can truly wave goodbye so decisively when love reaches its end? And so, the story ends. Love is not defined by status, money, or even life itself. This year's version of us is not the same as last year's, and the people we love change, too. If, amid all that change, we can still love the person they've become, that would be the most wonderful surprise of all.